Welcome to Festival 2022 on Iowa PBS. I'm Travis Graven, and we're getting set to bring you a program that is really exciting and special to me because I helped produce it, so I enjoy talking about it. It's Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City. So we're going to take a look at some of the history and some of the great architecture that you'll find in our state's first capital, or old capital, I should say, in Iowa City. So we'll get to that program here in just a moment. But right now, we want to hear from you at 800-779-7000. You can call or text that number. You can go online at iowapbs.org. You can scan the QR code that you see down in the corner of your screen. We have friends, volunteers with us here in the studio standing by to take your calls. Your dollars right now make the difference in us being able to produce and bring you programs like Historic Buildings of Iowa. It's something that Iowa PBS does and has done for many, many years and will continue to do with your support, but we're doing something that nobody else is doing in this particular kind of way, really going all across the entire state of Iowa, uncovering stories about people and places right here in our own backyard and bringing them to you in a way that really lets the storytelling shine, lets the people and the places shine. That's what Iowa PBS does. And you help make that happen when you show your support with your financial investment in this network. We have lots and lots of programs on Iowa PBS, and the consistent thread through all of them is high quality. We bring you high quality programs. We have a high bar that we set here. Of course, we want lots and lots of people to watch our programs, but we're not doing things for high ratings, or we're not doing things to satisfy advertisers or investors who are pouring money into this station. You are at the heart of what we do. We create programs that make a difference to you, that educate, enrich, inspire you in some way. That is what Iowa PBS has been doing for more than 50 years now, and we will continue to do that with your dollars of support. You make it happen. And we listen to you. When you call us and you invest in programs like you're about to see, that tells us that that's important to you, and we'll make sure that we continue bringing you these kinds of programs, going out, traveling the state, introducing you to people and places. So let's get to the first segment of the program now. It's Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City, part of Festival 2022 here on Iowa PBS. In Iowa's first capital city, a collection of structures tell a story dating back more than a century. Join Iowa PBS as we journey inside the historic buildings of Iowa City, home to the University of Iowa and the building blocks of our state. Stories of culture, history, and grandeur intertwined with the structures that still remain. A state house built on the edge of the frontier and home to legislators for Iowa's first days as a state. The old Capitol building resting on a hill overlooking the University of Iowa and the Iowa River. A performing arts venue once ravaged by floodwaters and then torn down before rising like a phoenix from the ashes. The new Hancher Auditorium is a showcase for the arts and entertainment. A legendary theater rebuilt for a modern age. The Englert Theater in downtown Iowa City has been updated to honor its history and future role for community arts. And a brick facade housing one of the Midwest's most historic football stadiums. The home to nearly a century of gridiron clashes, Kinnick Stadium has honored its legacy and consistently retooled for the future of Hawkeye football. Multiple buildings that each tell a different story. Structures still standing, some renovated, some rebuilt, and all part of Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City. Funding for Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City is provided by Friends, the Iowa PBS Foundation, as well as generations of families and friends who feel passionate about the programs they watch on Iowa PBS. And by OPN Architects.
there's always a discovery period. And whether that is really trying to find the documentation of the original building or doing your investigation, every building has a story and there's always a surprise.
It's an iconic setting. A few hundred feet back from a treasured Iowa river, on top of a gently sloping hill cut from centuries-old stone, sits Iowa's Capitol building. No, not the gold dome spectacle of central Iowa. This oddly similar description is that of the state's original Capitol, the old Capitol building lording over the campus of the University of Iowa in Iowa City.
The first territorial government for the state actually met in Burlington, Iowa. It met there for just one legislative session, and the state was quickly growing. They recognized the need to move west, and so Iowa City, Johnson County more specifically, was selected. And within the next 4 years, the building was completed. But then from 1846 to 1857, this was the state capitol.
It is hard to imagine now, but as the marker was placed for the forthcoming Capitol building, Iowa City was nothing more than a river, some hills, and a single log cabin. As construction started, the town quickly popped up around the future legislative capitol. While today the building is known for its iconic porticos on the east and west entrance, the reverse spiral staircase at its center, and the 4 buildings surrounding it, the old Capitol would go through many updates before it would take its current form.
Excitement around the building really started in as early as 1840. The cornerstone was laid and construction got underway. The original architecture, J.F. Ragu, was not pleased with the way that his plans were being followed. And so a few months into the building process, he left and took the plans with him. So when the government started meeting, the building looked very different from the exterior and looked very different inside as well.
With no construction plans and a budget growing to more than 3 times the expected cost, features were quickly cut, including the spiral staircase and the east and west porticos. It wasn't until the 1860s when the university began updating the building.
It quickly became apparent, even in the first year that the legislature was meeting here, that the state was growing and that the Capitol would need to move westward to be better positioned to serve the rest of the state. And so in 1847, the building was given to the University of Iowa. So on February 25th of 1847, the university came into being, although they didn't occupy the building, of course, until the legislature had moved out some 10 years later.
In its 10-year Capitol run, the building saw 3 governors sworn in, 6 legislative sessions, and saw the drafting of the state constitution. And while state government eventually relocated to Des Moines, the remaining old Capitol building quickly became the landmark of the university and surrounding community.
So when we refer to the Pentecrest, it's a roughly 2-block by 2-block space in the center of campus. It's bounded by 4 buildings that house classes and a number of other administrative functions, as well as the Museum of Natural History. And the Pentecrest itself is really the heart of campus. Almost every undergraduate student has attended an event, has played hacky sack or frisbee, or just simply hung out on the Pentecrest. It's also a place where Iowa Cityans come and during the summer spend a lot of time. So it's this unique space where campus and community get to coexist together.
While the old Capitol opened its doors in 1846, the 4 adjacent buildings weren't collectively established until the mid-1920s. First came Schaefer Hall in 1902, second McBride Hall in 1908, then McLean in 1912, and finally Jessup in 1924. All designed by the Des Moines architecture firm Proudfoot and Bird and drawn up to match the style of the old Capitol building, the Pentecrest became the hub of all campus activity and still is today.
This building, along with all of the other buildings on the Pentacrest, are of a neoclassic style. The Old Capitol in particular is known as a mature Greek revival, and mature refers to the fact that the building has symmetrical entrances on the long side, and that the columns surround the doors only. They don't surround the entire building, and they're also not in a circle as they would be in a Grecian temple.
When you walk into the Old Capitol today, it appears to be a building lifted straight out of the 1800s. The truth is, the building has lived through many phases and renovations through its lifetime. It has been an armory, a chapel, home to the law school. Even the Museum of Natural History started on the second floor as the Cabinet of Curiosities. But in the 1970s, when the university administrative offices moved out of the Old Capitol, a formal plan was fashioned to restore the building to its original 1846 designs. And the Old Capitol has remained in that state since 1976.
As America's bicentennial neared, work began on the restoration of this historic landmark to a living museum. The reconstruction began with the stripping of the building to its bare walls. Often during these first months, Old Capitol looked more like a site of demolition than reconstruction. The authenticity of the restoration of Old Capitol was maintained in even the smallest details. To provide a visual presentation of the total history of the building, individual rooms were restored to different periods. These details were carefully arranged to give the offices the appearance of the way Old Capitol would have looked in use in the various stages of its history.
The original remnants of the building from the time it was built include the 4 pillars that surround the spiral staircase. Those are the only original artifacts that exist in the building because of the extensive renovations that happened. The building now is featured with authentic period pieces. The desks in the house chamber are reproductions of 2 desks that we have that we know were original to the building. Many of the books in the library also were recollected from various places around the state because they're all marked on page 30, State Library of Iowa. But in large part, those 4 pillars are what remain.
As you enter the Old Capitol's west side entrance, the eye-catching features begin with a true rarity, a reverse spiral staircase at the very center of the structure. Beyond its elegance, it is one of only 3 reverse spiral staircases in North America.
A reverse spiral staircase is a very unusual staircase. It's maybe my favorite feature. This one is also unique because the top stair on the second floor perfectly aligns with the bottom stair on the first floor. During the 20s renovation, it was noted that no 2 balusters on the staircase are the same height because of its unusual configuration, and that not having the original building plans caused many challenges when they went to restore that staircase. Some say the lack of plans is the very reason that it is a reverse spiral.
As you start to wander through the halls and rooms of the Capitol, you get a real sense of what it might have been like to work in the Old Capitol when state government was in session. The chambers for the state Supreme Court, bustling with legal proceedings, lit by candlelight, warmed by wood-burning stoves and a brick hearth. The governor's office, overlooking the Iowa River, desk adorned with proclamations, quills, and important letters. The House chamber, encircled with lawmaker desks, a top-level gallery for visitors to watch, and stately curtains to manage the sunlight as it passed by all throughout a day's affairs.
So all but 2 of the rooms in the building have been restored to look the way they would have when this was the territorial capital. The 2 rooms that were restored to look as they did when this was a university building are the Senate chamber. It's set up to look like a lecture space of that time. Also, the university president's office is set up to look like it would have in the late 60s, early 70s, when Willard Boyd was the president of the university. He was the last president to occupy that office space before the president's administrative suite moved to Jessup Hall. On the desk sits a piece of a meteor that landed in Marion on February 25th, 1847. And coincidentally, that's the day that the University of Iowa was founded. So that meteor commemorates a really unique experience in the state and also commemorates the founding of the university. People said the boom could be heard as far away as Iowa City.
As a historic artifact, the old Capitol is both attractive and transportive. Take, for instance, the House Chamber, where the gallery is a clear sign of the times.
In the 70s renovation, there was evidence of a gallery that existed in the House Chamber. It was the women's viewing gallery, although you'll notice if you are up in that space, because of the angle of the gallery and the height of the gallery, you can't see what's happening on the House floor, but you can hear the proceedings. That was the attempt of the day to keep the women who wanted to come and observe the proceedings from gossiping about the activities afterwards. Also, if you have a moment and you sit and pause on one of those benches, you'll realize how terribly uncomfortable it is. That's because those benches were designed for women who were wearing hoop skirts and bustles to sit in, and supported them in a very different way than the way we sit in a chair today.
Ever dedicated to depicting the era, another artifact that might be overlooked throughout the Capitol are the spittoons.
In that era, it was very common for both men and women to use chewing tobacco. And of course, they needed a place then for the spit that they couldn't swallow. And so we have all manner of spittoons throughout the building. Some of them are larger, like those in the House Chamber where people spent more time. There are also some smaller versions. They're handheld versions that a lady could hold because it was considered unattractive for her to spit.
Of course, not all renovations are period accurate. In fact, the 1920s update, which saw the addition of the spiral staircase and the west entrance portico, also installed a roof-lined firewall. While not a feature visible on a public tour, it did save the old Capitol from disaster in 2001, when a fire broke out while removing asbestos from the gold dome and cupola.
We were fortunate. While there was smoke damage and extensive water damage, everything was able to be saved, thanks in large part to the firefighters who responded. They pulled many of the artifacts to the center of the rooms, covered them with heavy tarps and plastics, protected many, many, many things from water damage and from being ruined. So at that point in 2006, after 4.5 years of renovations and restorations, the building was able to be open to the public.
Through multiple updates, drastic changes in use, and even a trial by fire, the old Capitol building still stands. From its start as the state's territorial capital to the iconic centerpiece of the university, the building has maintained its draw as a focal point of the community and state.
These sorts of spaces are really very special, and to be able to come visit them in person transports individuals back to another time. It allows them to imagine what it would have been like when the House was in session, when they were working to ratify the state's constitution, when there was a trial happening in the Supreme Court chamber. These cultural spaces, it's very easy for them to vanish and for us to forget what was here and what came before us. So that's another important reason to maintain and preserve these spaces.
Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City here on Iowa PBS. I'm Travis Craven here in the studio with Andrew Bott, the executive producer of this program. And we are bringing this to you as part of Festival because this is the kind of program that we do here at Iowa PBS. This is your history, your state, your historic landmarks in a place that is familiar to a lot of folks, but a lot of people probably haven't seen these buildings in this kind of way, and we're able to explore these buildings, explore the history, and bring them to you as part of this program. We'd love to hear from you right now at 800-779-7000. Go on the website, scan the QR code, whatever's easiest for you. Little teaser, we're going to get to some of our thank you gifts coming up in a little bit of a moment, but we do have a bus tour that will give you an opportunity to go see some of these venues in person. It's coming up on Friday, July 22nd. For a one-time gift of $120 or $10 as a sustaining member each month, you can get one ticket and be on that bus tour. You will see all of the venues featured in the program. We've seen the old Capitol in the first segment here, but still to come, we've got the Englert Theater, Hancher Auditorium, Kinnick Stadium, and the Museum of Natural History that's at the University of Iowa. So you'll get all of those. The bus is going to stop. That's quite a packed day.
It's a big day in Iowa City.
But really cool things, and so you'll be able to see some of that in person as well. But Andrew, for those who can't go, or for those people who for whatever reason, maybe have never been to these places, or it's been a really long time, a program like this really gives people an opportunity to explore.
It does, and this is kind of an example of Iowa PBS at its best. We take you to the places that are in your own backyard. You might think you know Iowa. You might know Iowa City. Maybe you went to school there. Maybe you dropped a kid off there a few weeks ago. Maybe you've been to a football game in Iowa City, but you probably haven't seen all these locations, and definitely not from the perspective that our very talented team here at Iowa PBS can provide. And we give you context. We're not just showing you that old Iowa Capitol. We're showing you that journey and the history of it. Its origins is the earliest days of our state's government, and going through its a tragedy in its fire and restoration, and the beauty of that symbol in Iowa City now. I like to think that this is an example of a program that gives you one of the best ways to experience it. Probably almost as good as going on the bus tour. But you get that perspective that you're not going to get anywhere else. And it's, like I said, Travis, it's Iowa PBS at its best, showing history in your own backyard.
And so many of us here at Iowa PBS are Iowans. We're born here, raised here. We've worked here our entire careers, and we love being able to tell the stories of Iowa, going out and finding interesting people, interesting places, and bringing them to you in a way that nobody else does. That's what we do here at Iowa PBS, because you and other folks like you have made that financial investment in this network, allowing us to do this kind of work. We've got some other great thank you gifts to share with you. Bill Riley is standing by with us here in the studio with more on those. Bill?
Thank you, Travis, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Just a wonderful show tonight, and just what Andrew and Travis were speaking about. This is where Iowa PBS shines, and this is what makes this network so special. I want to thank our friends of Iowa PBS. Our volunteers are behind us, and they're ready to hear from you. So 800-779-7000, give them a call. We've got some great thank you gifts for your pledging tonight at the $60 one-time gift level, or $5 a month sustainer level. The Historical Buildings of Iowa coffee mug. What a great way to wake up every day with a hot cup of coffee and a beautiful coffee mug. Also at the $60 one-time gift level, or $5 sustainer level, is a magnificent postcard book. It's just loaded with 220 images of past postcards, historical glimpses of Iowa City that are just wonderful. And we're 9 months away from Christmas, I know, but think about it. That's a wonderful gift from somebody, for somebody that may have some history in Iowa City, again, like Andrew was saying, went to school there, what have you. That would be a wonderful thing to get somebody to open up on Christmas morning. Third up, $72 one-time gift, your choice of a DVD or a Blu-ray of the Historic Buildings of Iowa episode, $6 per month sustainer level. At the $120 level, one-time gift, is the Iowa City bus tour that the guys were talking about. This would be just a chance of a lifetime to get into some of the very unique parts of Iowa City. The Englert Theater alone is well worth the cost of this trip. It's spectacular. Of course, Hancher, beautiful auditorium, Kinnick Stadium, everybody's aware of that. Natural Museum of History, the Old Capitol Museum, includes lunch, and what a great, great way to support Iowa Public Television. Iowa PBS, I just dated myself again. I'm kind of an old guy. So at the $120 one-time gift level, or $10 a month, the sustainer level. And then the combo at $300 one-time gift, or $25 a month sustaining, the bus tour, the coffee mug, the postcard book, and your choice of the DVD or Blu-ray options. Now, we have something for tonight only, and this is a fun deal. This is a jigsaw puzzle, fun at the Iowa State Fair. And all of the pledges that I just listed, the $60 and above, or that $5 per month level, gives you an opportunity to buy this puzzle. Now, it's an additional $25, but it's a fun picture and a great puzzle. Great fun maybe at the cabin this summer as you're preparing for great state fair weather coming up in August. So this is super fun, and you have to call in during this program. After the program, puzzle's off the table. So for an additional $25, and the puzzle should be on your table. That's what I'm saying. 800-779-7000 is the number to call. Now, you can have the app. You can download the app on your phone. If you can't figure that out, find the nearest 12-year-old. They'll get you hooked up. But you can get what's called Passport. Now, this supercharges the app. And we're going to take a look at everything that Passport brings you right now.
Is there a program you'd like to watch again? Maybe a performance you didn't get a chance to see? Well, now you can with PBS Passport, a terrific member benefit that lets you stream more than 1,000 hours of PBS and local programming on your computer or through the PBS app on your phone, tablet, smart TV, or streaming device. All your favorites wherever, whenever you want. And with your qualifying contribution, you'll help make the great programs on this station possible. So reach out to the number on your screen or go online and get your PBS Passport today.
And the important thing is for us to hear from you right now. We've got these great thank you gifts. You've got Passport. You've got Advance Magazine. You've got our Friends member card. All of these ways that we're saying thank you to you for your dollars of support. But remember that when you make the investment, what you're really doing is investing in programs like you are watching here on Iowa PBS, this Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City program. Your dollars allow us to then take our crews, our producers, our videographers, and go out and shoot and gather all of this content and then bring it back and involve our production technicians and our editors and audio engineers and everybody else here behind the scenes who help make these programs possible. That's what your dollars do. And Andrew, we've filmed a lot of these segments in the early part of the pandemic.
That's right.
At a time when a lot of people couldn't go and visit these places, and that was a good reminder of the value of having a program like this and being able to give people another way, another avenue to kind of explore these places.
Some of our viewers tonight may not know this is the third in a series of programs we've produced about historic buildings in Iowa. We started in our capital city of Des Moines. We featured our second largest community of Cedar Rapids, and we've gone on now to Iowa City. And there's so many places. We hear from so many different folks when we're out and about that, hey, you know, we've got a lot of great history and buildings in our community. You're right. We'd love to tell those stories. We can tell those stories with support from you when you join as a member of Iowa PBS.
And when people do make that investment, they're supporting this kind of program and then, like you say, allowing us the resources to continue to do programs like this. And who knows, we might have another Historic Buildings of Iowa episode coming down the
we
road.
We just might. When you look in Iowa City, what our viewers have seen is the old Iowa Capitol. You're going to see Kinnick Stadium, the Englert Theater, as Bill Riley was saying, either in Hancher. Beautiful venues. I mean, when other networks go to Iowa City, they probably show you a football game at Kinnick. You've probably seen that, but you haven't seen it from the perspective we're going to show you, which is a different perspective. It's what Iowa PBS offers. It's something different. It's something local. We're a statewide network that offers this as a program, and an in-depth program. This is an hour-long program.
And we've seen the old Capitol. Still to come, we've got the Englert Theater, we've got Hancher Auditorium, the Museum of Natural History, and as you mentioned, Kinnick Stadium. So still lots and lots to come. So let's get back to the program, but let's hear from you in the interim as well. 800-779-7000. We're going back to Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City, here on Iowa PBS. Thank you for watching, and thank you for giving. When you think of historic buildings, Hancher Auditorium may not be what first comes to mind. After all, the structure of contemporary curves and cantilevers covered in brushed stainless steel and walls of glass opened its doors in 2016. This state-of-the-art, world-class performing arts venue is visually stunning and has all the bells and whistles a performer or a patron could want. The history is just as rich.
So, Hancher, when it came to the University of Iowa, I really feel like it changed the whole landscape of the arts in our state and really in our country too, because right away, immediately Hancher presented world-class artists that you would see in New York City and Chicago and, Los Angeles or somewhere on the West Coast. And people really took pride in Hancher. For a community of this size, to be supported, by the university and also by the donors, and to be able to live up to the programming that Hancher presented, it was a big deal.
The original Hancher opened its doors in 1972, named after Virgil Hancher, the longest-serving president in the university's history, who wanted to make the arts available to as many people as possible. For more than 35 years, its stage welcomed artists, scholars, student performers, and some of the most well-known musicians and entertainers in the world.
But when that original Hancher opened in '72, I was in the audience when Rudolf Nureyev performed with the National Ballet of Canada, and I was this young kid from a small town in Iowa, and, I thought I'd died and gone to heaven.
Then, in 2008, disaster. Unprecedented flooding damaged more than 50% of the building beyond repair. Hancher was one of 5 campus buildings permanently closed, and the university had no choice but to tear it down and start over. At a high point just uphill from the old location along the Iowa River, a new Hancher rose from the ground, sitting 7 feet above the 500-year flood level. The Federal Emergency Management Agency picked up a large portion of the $176 million price tag, 25 times what it cost to build the original. Dozens of architects, some of the best in the world, competed for the coveted job of creating it.
We wanted Hancher to be here because of the accessibility, because of the view, just because of the expansive lot. We really had an opportunity to do something pretty exquisite here. I wanted them, during this phase of design, to really understand what this building was going to be doing. Not just the structure of the building, the design of the building, but the function and the use of the building. And the opportunity that we had to build the best building possible.
The crown jewel of the facility is the 1,800-seat proscenium theater, about 700 seats fewer than old Hancher, but with views and acoustics that are hard to beat.
You can stand on that stage as an artist and look out into that audience, and you can see those faces. So it really generates such chemistry between the audience and between the artist. And so the intimacy of the hall is one thing that I really cherish, and I love. The acoustics is great. Also this color. I think the color is just so unusual. It's very inviting. And, you know, the lighting is very unusual, very different. Francesca was the lighting designer. We've won several awards. And we gave her a charge at the very beginning, our team. We said we want something different, something that doesn't exist anywhere at all. And so that's when she came up with the hoop lights. And to this day, she tells me, because we're still in contact, she said, not that I know of, does anybody have the hoop lights? And then the twinkly lights too. It just presents itself with a different sort of feel, but yet it wears well on you. It's not so ostentatious that you tire of it.
The design respects that of the original building, but unlike the old Hancher, this one doesn't have a backside. All public areas feature a visual connection to the river, other nearby art buildings, and the rest of campus and the community.
We came out a winner. We really, really did. But we were very careful about every stage of it. And there again, we tried in the best way possible to be appreciative, inclusive, and to celebrate along the way.
A majestic lobby splashed with sunlight, a second-level terrace, ceilings of cypress wood, subtle works of art themselves.
We spent so much time talking about the social areas of Hancher. Performing arts centers have changed. You know, people come to be seen, people come to be heard, people come to really forget about a lot of their worries, and they come to be taken to another world. And so we put a lot of effort into the views from that lobby.
The featured artwork includes Anonymous Creature in the main lobby by West African sculptor El Anatsui, rows and rows of recycled liquor bottle tops intricately woven together with copper wire. And We All Perform, a local piece featuring students from 7 communities across Iowa who took selfies and then transformed them into text tied to the notion of performance.
And it talks so much about self-esteem, it talks about inclusiveness, it talks about communities just really being a part of the arts and about being a part of Hancher's world. And I just love that piece.
It's a premier performing arts venue and a cultural focal point with a lasting legacy. And with space for rehearsals, teaching, and impressive scene and costume shops with ample storage, tools, and work areas of envy, Hancher is also referred to as the largest classroom on campus.
Of course, dance, music, and theater are a big part of our partnerships, but we also relate to business, to law, to medicine, to nursing, to social work, to rhetoric classes. I mean, we find ways, when it makes sense, to integrate the arts into the classroom. So the building, when it was built, we really had students in mind. We really thought not only students in the audience, but we want students on stage.
The awe-inspiring structure, setting, and spirit of Hancher connects its proud history to the present and the future. The encore, even better than the first act for the university, the community, and the state.
What we ended up with is just, it's a masterpiece. It really is. In so many ways, it's a masterpiece from the beauty, but also the function. There's that form and function, and the team really looked at that very carefully all the way through, because we wanted an iconic building. We wanted a beautiful building, but we wanted it to work too. We wanted to build a home and not a house.
In today's collegiate environment, almost always newer is considered better. But inside the University of Iowa's McBride Hall sits the Museum of Natural History, a time capsule of both flora and fauna the world around. But the museum itself is a treasure of architecture and design from more than a century ago.
The large mahogany cases, the high ceilings, just the expanse of the space really makes you feel like you, again, are in this time machine and you're transported back to an earlier period on campus.
The Natural History Museum is one of the oldest features of the university. In 1858, surveyors from the University of Iowa explored the state's land and resources, cataloging everything they encountered. As they returned to Iowa City with a bounty of discoveries to share, the university converted the old capital's former state senate chamber into the museum's initial home, then titled the Cabinet of Curiosities. The collection wouldn't find its permanent home for another 50 years following a historic campus disaster. In 1897, Iowa proudly housed the largest academic library west of the Mississippi, and with the crack of a single bolt of 4 a.m. lightning, the university library lit aflame. Even with firefighters' best efforts, by 5 a.m. the fire completely devoured the building and it collapsed. More than 80,000 books, volumes, and other collections were lost in the fire.
University administration very quickly came to realize that a number of their collections, including this Cabinet of Curiosities, was in danger of being lost. And also, in order to remain competitive with the colleges on the East Coast, faculty petitioned that they have a building dedicated to the natural sciences built. And so McBride Hall was built, and construction started in 1904, finished in 1908, and the museum then moved in.
In the four-stage plan to construct the buildings of the Pentacrest, the Natural Sciences Building was the second structure erected, today known as McBride Hall. Its Beaux-Arts style was chosen to match the old Capitol built a half-century earlier, a choice made specifically to withstand disasters of all kinds.
These buildings are local limestone, and they're here to last. They've withstood tornadoes, derechos, floods, fires, you name it. These buildings have seen it. One of the really special things about it is the floor tiling. The tiling was laid, and at that time, you could not buy sheets of tile. Each tile mosaic was hand set, so visitors may notice that patterns may be just a little bit off. It's one of the things that makes our building really special.
The construction of the Natural Sciences Building was a long-standing dream of renowned university professor and head of the zoological department, Charles Cleveland Nutting. The professor personally led dozens of exploratory expeditions across the world and often shared his work to packed Iowa City audiences. If the library fire was the catalyst to get the building erected, C.C. Nutting's work laid the foundation for what the museum would become.
In the early 1900s, it was really the age of expeditions. The museum director at that time, his name was Charles Nutting. He was a marine invertebrate biologist. So this expedition that he was on in 1904, the ship happened to make land on the Laysan Island atoll, and he was taken with the scene before him. Thousands of birds, no humans, no predators to the birds, just this 3-mile expanse of land. He felt that it was imperative that this exhibit, the cyclorama, be built so that the citizens of Iowa could experience this place that they likely would never otherwise be able to travel to.
In 1914, the cyclorama was open to the public. From the day it opened to today, it has been a one-of-a-kind, 360-degree immersive experience. As visitors step inside, they are transported 800 miles west of Hawaii to the Laysan Islands, as seen by C.C. Nutting in 1902.
For people visiting today, it's very nearly unchanged from the day it was installed and open to the public. It's this complete time machine, a time machine that was built before the idea of virtual reality existed, before the widespread use of photographs, before even widespread travel. It's really very special.
While the cyclorama is considered the crown jewel of the museum, it is far from its only entrancing feature. Displays upon displays allow up-close and detailed looks at animals from within the state's borders and far beyond.
Because we are a university museum, it's not just animals of Iowa, it's animals from all over the world. So you'll find panda bears, you'll see a zebra, you'll see muskox, you'll see grand peacocks, and Iowa Hall, which is devoted to the natural history of the state of Iowa. So beginning in prehistoric times up through native cultures of the state, all aspects of Iowa culture is examined.
For nearly as long as the university has existed, the researchers, explorers, and museum curators have been working diligently to share the natural world with visitors to McBride Hall. Compared to the planet, Iowa is a small ecosystem, but a diverse one that we're still learning about. And as the University Natural History Collection has survived fires, tornadoes, pandemics, and more, its mission has been the same: to inspire visitors to learn about the natural world and cherish it.
If you don't know and care about something, you're not going to want to conserve it and protect it. And so that's a big piece of what we are here to do, is to educate the public about these different, really special areas all around the world.
So the Englert Theater was originally the dream of Etta Englert, and she managed to convince her husband, who was a very successful businessman, that they should invest some of their funds in creating a theater for this community. And so the building was built in 1912. It was a vaudeville house, an opera house, and Etta and Bill lived on the third floor of the theater. And the story goes that they would host parties, that they had doors that opened up into the balcony from what was now our parlor gallery space, and that they were really just, hosts both of the theater as well. Eventually, the theater, of course, followed the course of American theaters and transitioned into silent movies, movies with musical accompaniment, and then just became, a basic cinema.
Even at one point, they divided the theater in two and put a wall down the middle and put up two theaters, which was really awkward because they did not change the seats. So you were sitting in your seat and you were looking at the movie over there.
And a lot of people fondly remember sitting through a quiet romantic film and being able to hear an action film through the wall on the other side. And when it was torn down for the renovations, we discovered that there wasn't really insulation between the two walls.
The Englert Theater has been a staple of downtown Iowa City for more than a century. Its evolving marquee has hung as a landmark for countless travelers, stating that they had arrived in town. And while today it is a beautifully restored, nationally recognized entertainment space, very little besides the walls of the Englert date back to its origin in 1912.
The back walls of the theater are still fire-licked from the fire of 1926. Unfortunately, we're not exactly sure of the cause of the fire, but it is believed that the unstable nature of film at that point, where it had to be kept in fireproof boxes, that's probably what caused the fire.
The fire, it basically climbed across the ceiling and then dripped down the brick wall. So all of the bricks were colored with this ancient smoke.
There's some historical accounts that put Etta Englert sitting out front with Dora Chapman, whose family actually operated the theater after Bill passed away. They had chairs brought out and they sat and they watched the theater burn. We did lose quite a few architectural features to the theater, the boxes on the side. Much of the lobby was retained, and when the theater was rebuilt, they did keep a lot of the original footprint, the curved wall in the lobby, and other aspects of the space. And the dressing rooms, we believe, are original from that period too.
Today, the Englert is a wonderful mix of modern amenities and historic charm. As soon as visitors pass by the marquee and into the building, the flair of early 20th century architecture is waiting to greet them.
So when you first walk into the Englert, the very first thing you see is this booth. It's where you would purchase your ticket, although there weren't tickets, you just gave them money and you walked in. And that is a replica, but the floor in that front lobby is slate that is original. And if you look up at the ceiling, there's plaster molding of grapes that go all along the border, and there's 2 plaster coat of arms that are there. So like right away when you walk in, there's all this history immediately. The dressing rooms also contain a lot of original features, just dressing room doors that are still down there, and we have some in the basement, and the sinks down there. So it looks really industrial and, you know, got personality. On the stage, at the back of the stage, is that we have a traditional fly system. So above me right now is where all of our soft goods, our curtains and screens live, and lights, and they get to come in and out for different shows. We have a lot of flexibility when it comes to the aesthetic of our stage, and we have to sometimes do live moves during shows, so we actually still have staff that will have to stay up on the fly rail and pull in certain battens when it's time and take them out when it's time. And that little bit of theater that's left is really cool. And we have some bricks on our brick wall and in our dressing rooms that have been signed by famous people and artists throughout time who have come and visited our space and performed in our space. So it's a little archive of past performers all over the walls, which is just fun to revisit.
Throughout its evolution, the fate of the Englert Theater hinged on one key sale. In 1999, the building was sold to a local bar owner who was planning to convert the space into a nightclub. Those plans fired up the local arts community, who started a public campaign to save the performance and art space in the early 2000s. Quickly, the building was sold to a nonprofit, which led to its indefinite preservation.
So the Englert is on the National Registry of Historic Places, and what that means logistically for us is that we get to keep everything that was ever once in the building that is historic. So our basement is full of old sinks, bathtubs, radiators, the big pulleys that lit up the stage lights, which now we do at a computer. We have a lot of the storage units for the celluloid film, and I think an old projection canister. So a lot of it's really cool, and then some of it is sinks. So we just make piles of it and share the love with tours who are interested in that kind of thing.
With its place on the National Registry, the Englert is required to hold on to its history. But one intriguing aspect of the theater is when it chose to retain pieces of its past that were redefined by global tragedy.
I think one of the interesting pieces about the theater are these little tiles that are embedded right outside one of the side doors. And they were put in when the theater was first built. And they're signs of prosperity and luck, just put right there in the footprint of the building. And one of those symbols is actually a swastika, which is something we've had to contemplate over time, because at the time that would have been put in, the swastika had a very different meaning. And in fact, outside of the Nazi Party and their appropriation of that symbol has a different meaning throughout the world. So it's been a wonderful way to have a conversation with students and community members as they come through. And sometimes we have to answer some hard questions about that, but it's a story that we're willing to discuss and dig into the history.
As renovation efforts got going in the early 2000s, one of the priorities was the marquee. Having been refashioned several times over the building's century-long history, the decision was made to restore the iconic look of the 1958 marquee.
So the marquee definitely was in need of some love. A lot of the neon wasn't working anymore. It no longer did its sporadic light show. It was just on or off. But getting a marquee like that restored is definitely a challenging process, because we had to disassemble it, and then we had to ship it somewhere where they restore historic marquees. And the marquee was gone off the front of the building. It was a reminder to the community that we were doing work, that we hadn't shut down, though it was also really sad to see this, all of a sudden this landmark is gone. And I was thinking about the students who were coming to the University of Iowa for the first time as freshmen and not having this site in their world. But the marquee was restored beautifully, and in order to celebrate this, we had outdoor marquee lighting event. So having it come back and light up in this beautiful original glory with, like, you know, brand spanking new neon, it was really emotional.
Saving the Englert Theater has helped retain a piece of Iowa City not connected to the university. It is a privately owned performance and arts house that has entertained generations of visitors. And with its renovation efforts, it will continue to do so for future generations.
I think it's incredibly important for communities to preserve the buildings that are important to them in order to just kind of maintain the longevity of just even the story of what the community is. At the point when we preserved and saved the theater, you know, they really predicted that we'd be able to support about 60 events a year. And now we're looking at having over 100,000 people through our doors, close to 200 events per year. Our communities has stepped forward to support everything that we do. They get married here. They have funeral services here. They come and see their favorite bands here. It's more than a building. It's really a center of our community.
You're watching Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City here on Iowa PBS. I'm Travis Graven, alongside Andrew Bott, the executive producer of this program. And our team has put together this wonderful historic look in a very unique way of some of these buildings and landmarks in Iowa City, our state government's first capital located there. We saw in the first segment of the show. We've seen a couple theaters now in the Museum of Natural History. We've got another segment coming up in a moment with a venue that many of you will recognize, Kinnick Stadium, but seeing it in a way that you haven't seen it before. But first, we want to hear from you right now. 800-779-7000, the number to call. You can go on the website, you can scan the QR code, make your investment in this kind of programming here on Iowa PBS. When you do that, right now we have a whole slew of thank you gifts we'll get to in a moment, but we really want to mention the bus trip that we have coming up July 22nd. So this summer, you have the opportunity to get one ticket to be on that tour, and you're going to get the chance to see all of these venues in person. So that bus tour will start and stop in Iowa City. It includes lunch, $120 one-time gift, $10 ongoing monthly as a sustaining member, and you can be on that tour, and you'll be with a lot of other friends of Iowa PBS as well. We have friends, volunteers here in the studio helping us right now. They are waiting to help you make your investment in Iowa PBS. And Andrew, it was fun going to these places. I'd been to a few of them before, got to explore a couple new places in ways that I hadn't seen before.
Right, and this program, Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City, gives you, a viewer, that chance to experience them yourself. You don't even have to drive to Iowa City to experience it. It's an incredible perspective we're able to offer inside, behind the scenes, above and around many of these locations. As Travis mentioned, places of theater, Hancher Auditorium, which, you know, the story of Iowa is the story of natural disasters at times. The original Hancher was flooded, and they rebuilt this amazing facility. To be able to see it from the inside, from outside, from a drone perspective, that's just one of the features that we add in this program. It's not just the images, it's the story, it's the history. And this is what Iowa PBS does best. We didn't just show you a couple images and move on. We went in depth into just one story that's almost 10 minutes long in a program that's almost an hour long to give you perspective. That's what Iowa PBS is here for. And I'll tell you, to go to Iowa City, there aren't a lot of other networks that are going to go spend an hour on a documentary about the historic buildings in Iowa City. That's what Iowa PBS does. We're a statewide network, but we tell the stories of your communities, whether you've lived there, whether you went to school there, whether you've never been there before. This is a program that gives you a perspective, and we want to do more of these types of programs.
And like you say, this is the kind of program that we've done for many, many years here at Iowa PBS, and we will continue to do with your support. It is your dollars that help make that happen. It takes money for us to go to Iowa City, spend time there, take our crew, the equipment, the drones, you know, all of those things that are involved in producing a really high quality documentary like this. You help make it happen. You're part of our team. So we want to hear from you right now, 800-779-7000. We mentioned the bus tour, but there are some other great thank you gifts as well. Bill Riley is here with us in the studio to tell you more about those. Bill?
Thank you, Travis, and we got you covered. If you call in, talk to our volunteers. They're ready to help you out. We've got some wonderful thank you gifts for you tonight in this beautiful program, the Historical Buildings of Iowa City. At the $60 level, one-time gift, this really, really cool coffee mug. And what a great way to start your morning, knowing that you backed Iowa PBS, and it's just a beauty. So at the $60 one-time gift, or the sustainer level at $5, also get you that coffee mug. At the same level of gift, you get this incredible book of postcards, antique shots of Iowa City that are just so interesting. I've got the book in front of me here, and I've been peeking through it, and it is fun. Again, a great birthday gift or a Christmas gift for someone that is from Iowa City or the state of Iowa. And again, same level, $60 one-time gift or $5 monthly sustainer. And that sustainer level is important because it spreads things out over the whole year. So consider that as well. So at $72 one-time gift, your choice of a DVD or a Blu-ray disc and of tonight's show. And this show is worth having in your library. You can pull this back out and revisit this. We just saw the Natural Museum of History and the Englert. I've been there a number of times for concerts. It's just a gorgeous auditorium. But to hear the story about how they revitalized it and got it back up to spec, as they say, it's just tremendous. So your chance with the Blu-ray or the DVD. Also, they talked about, Travis and Andrew talked about the Iowa City bus tour that's coming up. What an opportunity. Friday, July 22nd, and starts in Iowa City, ends in Iowa City, lunch is included. But man, what a way to see all of these beautiful facilities and old buildings and new buildings in Iowa City. $120 one-time gift, or at that monthly sustainer level of $10. Hey, get them all. The combo is $300 one-time gift or $25 at the sustainer level. And that's what I suggest. Get them all. That's the way to support Iowa PBS. Now, during this show only, we have a wonderful jigsaw puzzle. And Andrew was teasing me, leave it to Bill Riley to weave in the Iowa State Fair during Historic Buildings of Iowa, but that's just how I'm wired, okay? I'm ready for the fair, and it's just March, so you got to get ready. This is a great way to do it. It's a puzzle, and again, $25 in addition to your pledge gets you the puzzle, and it's for this show only. You have to call in during this program. So we've got a lot of great thank you gifts. We appreciate your support here at Iowa PBS. 1-800-779-7000 is the number. We also want to introduce you to the benefit of the member card. So let's take a peek at that right now. 2-for-1 dining, more at 300 restaurants, 2-for-1 admission to cultural attractions, green fees and other sporting discounts. All of our, if you make a pledge thank you gift, that you get the membership card, and we've got one. We use it all the time. It's great at restaurants, and you'll find the restaurants, they enjoy seeing that membership card because they're backing Iowa PBS as well. So with tonight's thank you gifts, you qualify for the membership gifts. So we're going to toss it back to Travis and Andrew.
All kinds of goodies, Bill, all kinds of goodies. And that puzzle is a really fun way to kind of have something active to do and reminisce a little bit about the fair and see all of those wonderful landmarks that are at the fair. There's some historic buildings at the fair too, so it's fine for us to weave that in. But Andrew, I was reminded in that last segment, we looked at Hancher Auditorium, and on the outside you look at Hancher and you think, wow, this is a really nice, flashy, new building. How's that an historic building? But history really is kind of what you make of it, whether it is something that's super, super old or it has a unique place in history, and that's why we included Hancher, because of the, of course, the historic flood of 2008 that wiped out the old Hancher, and they had to start anew. And so it has an important place in the history of Iowa City, and you know, a program like this gives us the opportunity to really highlight and celebrate those kinds of things as well.
Yeah, one of the things Iowa PBS does best is tell stories about Iowa. We're telling those through these buildings. Maybe they're a new building, maybe they're an old building that's been renovated. I mean, the old Iowa Capitol, the dome, there was a fire in it. You know, in the coming year, they're going to regild that dome into gold. So these buildings are a part of our history. We tell that story, and their stories are ongoing. So this is part of what Iowa PBS does. And like I said before, we really want to keep telling these kinds of stories. And it's not just about a building, it's about the people that came there. It's about our state's history and about a network that we're the only ones that are going to tell that story.
Now, in this next segment we have coming up, we're going to take a unique look at Kinnick Stadium. Now, I hear through the grapevine that you might be an Iowa State guy.
That's okay.
But they must not have gotten word of that when we were filming, because they let you in.
They did. And I will tell you, anyone out there that is not a Hawkeye fan, you can still appreciate Kinnick Stadium. It's history, its background. If I can, you can. It's really neat. Our perspective that they did let us in, including me, to be able to fly around it. We did a lot of great drone work around Kinnick Stadium. Really neat how it's just so nestled in there in Iowa City. The history is neat to see some of the images. We go into the archives and look at how they built this, what Iowa City looked like almost 100 years ago when they decided to put a football stadium there.
Wasn't much else there at the time.
No.
But yeah, it's really cool to just be able to get an inside look. And for a lot of people, you know, there were some places there that we were able to give people a perspective that they probably haven't seen before. So, without further ado, let's get back to the program. We'll let you see Kinnick Stadium for yourself on this next segment of Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City, here on Iowa PBS. Thank you so much for your support. Resting in the heart of Iowa City, a living monument to a century of gridiron battles, rebuilt over generations, but still connected to its past. The brick facade of Kinnick Stadium still stands as the history of Iowa football is enshrined in murals and statues. Including the Iowa farm boy whose name still resonates 80 years after winning a Heisman Trophy. A stadium modernized over decades with 21st century accommodations. A new playing surface. And a press box rebuilt for years to come. Kinnick Stadium is one of the Midwest's most historic football stadiums, still welcoming nearly 70,000 fans to fall Saturdays in Iowa City.
I think it is special, you know, to be a Hawkeye and to be here to play on this field. When you play on it, when the players come out, invariably, they say they get goosebumps. Now, the one thing I'll say right off about Kinnick Stadium, it was known back in the 1930s and is still known now in the 2020s as maybe one of the top 2 or 3 best stadiums in the country to watch a football game.
In the 1920s, University of Iowa administrators conceived of a new stadium after years of playing on the modest Iowa field. An artist's rendering at the time envisioned the next steps for the athletic department, a new shrine for Hawkeye football.
We're also going to move forward, or we hope to anyway, as far as building a new stadium, Iowa Football Stadium. And that was in 1927. So he took it to, I guess, what would have been the Board of Regents back at that time, and it was approved. They started building Kinnick Stadium in, I believe it was late March or April of 1929, and it was ready for occupancy in October of 1929. So they had a work crew of like 250 people, Kinnick Stadium. They worked day and night. You see it's below the level of the streets and everything. They had horses and carrying the dirt out. There's still a legend, and I think it's true, that a number of horses died in the act, and they're still buried below the field that we know now as the Kinnick Stadium playing surface. And I believe attendance for one of those first games was right near 50,000, which was an all-time record for the state of Iowa for any football facility. And then the story goes from there. All we had at that time was the east stands and the west stands. There were no stands in either of the end zones. That came at a later time.
A new tradition at the new Iowa Stadium, as its future namesake became a Hawkeye in the late 1930s. Niall Kinnick, an Iowa farm boy from Adel, would go on to win the Heisman Trophy and was a decorated student athlete and later an assistant coach. Kinnick's on-field achievements would be rivaled by his reputation in academics.
The one thing I can tell you right now, a number, not just one or two, a number of people said he was the kind of person that he could have run for president. He was in law. I guess he was brilliant. He was an honor student, and they said they could see him as a future, certainly a senator, congressman, and probably run for higher office at some time. He even helped coach here at Iowa as, I guess back then, I don't know if you'd call it a graduate assistant or if he was an official assistant coach, but he was on the coaching staff until we got into the full-fledged, rigors of World War II, and then he was called into service.
Kinnick would enlist in World War II and later died in a plane crash. His statue on the south end of the stadium is a symbol for the University of Iowa and a pregame ritual for the Hawkeye football team. Niall Kinnick's Heisman acceptance speech still echoes through the stadium on game days.
Finally, if you will permit me, I'd like to make a comment which in my mind is indicative perhaps of the greater significance of football and sports emphasis in general in this country, and that is, I thank God I was warring on the gridirons of the Midwest and not on the battlefields of Europe.
People go there, the team, touches his helmet every Saturday morning of a home game when they come in as good luck and as a tribute to Niall Kinnick. And it's something, if you come to Kinnick Stadium and have never been here, or if you've been here and haven't been to that statue, you need to go over there and read the stuff written about Niall Kinnick on there and his exploits as an athlete and as a scholar student. It became Kinnick Stadium, I believe it was 1972, 1973. And it obviously was to honor Iowa's greatest and only Heisman Trophy winner, Niall Kinnick, who won the Heisman Trophy in 1939 and later died a couple years later in World War II in an airplane accident. But that's who it was to honor. There was some discussion at the time, should we name it, Slater Stadium? Should we name after Duke Slater? Should we name it Kinnick Slater Stadium? But I think everybody pretty much agreed back then it should go to the only person who won the Heisman Trophy for Iowa.
In 2021, the playing field at Kinnick Stadium was named Duke Slater Field, after the first black student athlete in school history to earn All-America honors while playing from 1918 to 1920. And while he never played on the future Iowa Stadium site, Slater's name now adorns its field.
Well, there have been a number of renovations. You see what the north and south stands are now. They're permanent, they're state-of-the-art, they're first class, and they're just beautiful. And our capacity right now is just under 69,000. But just prior to that, before there was some renovation in the north end zone, it got up to about 70,500. I dare say I would not take any other stadium in the Big Ten above this. The angle of the seating is spectacular. It always has been. It is now. You go in some stadiums where it's a slow pitch and you get to the back. We have 79 rows in our stadium. And you go in some stadiums and you get to the back row, you're actually far enough away, you do need binoculars. The fans are right on top of you. There isn't, in my opinion, except for maybe sometimes row 1 or 2 or 3, way down low where you can't see as well, there isn't a bad seat in the house. The opposition hates it because the home fans are right on top of you. And there used to be some teams that came in and said, I didn't like going to Iowa because sometimes when we did something good, the home fans would spit on you and the spit would actually reach you. So it was, it's the best stadium in the country from a fan standpoint. From the home team standpoint, it's the best stadium in the country because the fans are right there and you can hear them. It's not like a lot of stadiums where there's a running track in between the actual football field and the stadium, or where there's 15, 20 yards between row 1 and the actual field. I mean, everybody here is within 5 yards of being on the field. And it's incredible. I've sat in virtually every angle of seat in the stadium, including the end zones and the corners, and they're all good seats. I just know so many people that they would not, for any reason, miss an Iowa football game. They plan weddings around home games. I know people who fly as far away as Arizona and Pennsylvania that fly in. They live there and they fly in for every Iowa home game.
Please turn toward the University of Iowa Stead Family Children's Hospital and join together in sending our support and encouragement to the kids and their families watching the game.
For a stadium rooted in a century of Hawkeye tradition, there is still room for new celebrations. In 2017, the Iowa Hawkeyes began a new ritual at the end of every first quarter. Fans, players, and coaches turned to the newly built University of Iowa Children's Hospital overlooking the stadium and waved to the families above. a sign that even the oldest traditions can evolve and grow at one of Iowa's historic buildings, Kinnick Stadium. In Iowa's first capital city, this collection of structures tell a story dating back more than a century. From a stately building overlooking the University of Iowa campus, the old Capitol remains the symbol of this college town. To a modern performing arts venue, Hancher Auditorium remains a showcase for the arts. A legendary theater rebuilt for the modern age, Englert Theater is updated for the next generation in downtown Iowa City. To the legendary brick facade of Kinnick Stadium, where fans, players, and coaches honor the past and enjoy the current generation of Hawkeye football. These Iowa City structures combine for an unparalleled tour of awe-inspiring architecture and make up the latest chapter of historic buildings of Iowa. Funding for Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City is provided by Friends, the Iowa PBS Foundation, as well as generations of families and friends who feel passionate about the programs they watch on Iowa PBS. And by OPN Architects.
There's always a discovery period, and whether that is really trying to find the documentation of the original building or doing your investigation, every building has a story and there's always a surprise.
Historic Buildings of Iowa, Iowa City. I'm Travis Graven with Andrew Bott, the executive producer of the program. This is the kind of program, this documentary, really is what Iowa PBS is about. It's part of our mission, bringing the people and the stories and the places of Iowa to you in a way that nobody else really does. You have hundreds and hundreds of programming options right now. You're choosing Iowa PBS because it is unique, it is different, it is special, and it is Iowa. It is the people, places that are right here in our own backyard that nobody else is highlighting and explaining and uncovering and introducing you to in the way that we do. And this is just one example of many, Andrew, that, throughout the year, different kinds of programs like these that really celebrate Iowa. If you value that, we'd love to hear from you right now at 800-779-7000. We have some great thank you gifts that we'll run through here in just a moment, but we want to highlight our bus trip, which is coming up this summer, July 22nd. This is going to give you the opportunity to go to Iowa City, travel around in the bus for the day, and visit all of the venues that you just saw as part of this Historic Buildings of Iowa program. So you're going to go to the Englert, Hancher, Kinnick, the Museum of Natural History, and the Old Capitol on the University of Iowa campus.
And get lunch.
And lunch. Yep. What could be better than that? Yeah. I tell you, you're going to work up an appetite getting to all of those places over the course of the day. $120 one-time gift, $10 ongoing monthly when you become a sustaining member, and you'll get one ticket to that bus trip. You probably want to bring a friend too, so you might want to get a couple tickets.
It's a good idea.
Call.
It's a great idea, Travis.
But Andrew, this is the kind of we've been saying over and over. This is the kind of program that Iowa PBS does, but really can't emphasize enough that nobody else is going to go out and at least nobody with the network that we have of statewide coverage and produce a documentary like this.
Yeah, there isn't just one person that works on a program like this. It takes a team. It takes a very talented team. Videographers, some of the ones that are running cameras here tonight with names like Darren and Phil and Eric. These are the people that we take on the road with us, and it takes time to get into these venues, to film, sit down and do in-depth interviews with the people that tell these stories. And we're the place that tells those stories and brings them to you. You know, some of this videography that we did at Kinnick Stadium, many people have watched a game there, but you probably haven't seen the stadium from this perspective. We tried to give you those different perspectives, but, you know, place it in its history. These buildings are stories. They're stories of history. They're stories of people that came before us and the fabric of our state. And that's what Iowa PBS does best. As Travis mentioned, we want to keep telling these stories. We were able to do this program because viewers like you supported us in the past. We want to tell more stories.
Absolutely, and I suspect we probably will. But we need to hear from you right now. 800-779-7000. Call, text, go online, scan the QR code, whatever is easiest for you. Make that investment in this kind of programming here on Iowa PBS. We told you about the bus trip. We have some other thank you gifts, and Bill Riley is with us tonight. Bill, what else do we have?
Travis, you're correct. We've got some wonderful thank you gifts for your pledge tonight. Call in and help us with Iowa PBS and enjoy. I know you're enjoying this wonderful program. It's just spectacular. I've been in Iowa City often. Again, I mentioned the Englert Theater. I'm a big music fan, and it's a premier venue. Kinnick, the museum, all of this coming together tonight. Only Iowa PBS is going to show you a show like this at this quality, and as Andrew was saying, going in depth. And it's just an amazing opportunity for you to support Iowa PBS and keep this kind of programming coming your way. So at the $60 level, this incredibly fun coffee mug, $60 one-time gift, or the month-to-month at $5, the sustainer level, get you this wonderful coffee mug. Good way to start off your morning with a hot cup of coffee. Also at that same gift level, you have this wonderful, wonderful paperback of old postcard shots. And this is really fun. You can sit down and spend an hour or so perusing through this. This would, I would say it's almost a coffee table book. It's certainly something to have around the house, so when neighbors come by, friends and neighbors, they can see it as well. And you can explain to them that you support Iowa PBS, and that's how you get people rolling in the same direction that we're rolling. We want to keep Iowa PBS rolling along. Same pledge level, $60 one-time gift, or at $5 per month. Then we go to the DVD and Blu-ray disc option, whichever, at the $72 level or the $6 per month sustainer level. And again, as I mentioned at the last break, this program is worth having in your video catalog. Again, friends come back, you know, you can toss this in, and this is a wonderful, wonderful trip through some of the finest points of Iowa City. And what a great community in this wonderful state of Iowa, Iowa City is. And that special relationship that the Children's Hospital has with the football, it's become a national topic, and it's just breathtaking when that happens. So your chance to have a copy of this on the DVD or the Blu-ray. Now, my suggestion is you just go all in and get all of it. We do have the combo, but I do want to mention the bus trip that Travis was talking about. Now, remember, this starts in Iowa City and ends in Iowa City. It does include lunch, and I'm assuming you're not going to be riding on a CAM bus, one of the campus buses. I think it's probably a pretty nice, comfortable bus trip. $120 one time or $10 month to month at the sustainer level. And a great idea that Travis had, get a couple of tickets, maybe 4, grab some friends and go. I think it'd be a heck of a trip and a lot of fun. And as I mentioned, the combo, you can get it all for $300 one-time gift or $25 month to month. And that's what I suggest. Great way to back Iowa PBS and a great way to see all of this, the Blu-ray, DVD, the bus trip, the coffee mug, and of course the postcard book. Now, if my good friend Cameron might jump in on this, I want to emphasize the puzzle. One time only during this program, you get the puzzle. See? Get the puzzle. $25 in addition to your pledge, okay? It's a wonderful, wonderful way. It's the State Fair puzzle, and it's a great shot. I mean, it's a beautiful picture. It's got the Ferris wheel, Ye Old Mills in it. It's got the Sky Glider. It's even got the grandstand in the background. So all the highlights of the great Iowa State Fair. So that is yours for an additional $25 when you make one of the pledges that we mentioned before. And again, only during tonight's program. So call in and get that puzzle on top of your pledge. So thank you so much. 800-779-7000. Give us a call. Our volunteers are waiting to hear from you. Let's go back and talk to Andrew and Travis.
Less than a couple minutes, Bill. That puzzle will be not available for you to get as part of this program. Andrew, we've explored Des Moines. We've explored historic buildings in Cedar Rapids. We've now gone to Iowa City.
Right.
Are there other historic buildings in Iowa?
That's a leading question, Travis. You already know the answer to it. Yes, there are. As a viewer, you know there's historic buildings in every city or town in the state. We're excited about our next, as this series, we're going to go to one of our oldest communities, Dubuque, along the Mississippi River. It's a town rich in history that dates back a long time in this state. Beautiful churches, beautiful scenery, buildings of history and stories. Once again, like we've said, what Iowa PBS does best, and your support is what's helping us go out there in the coming months and film that program and bring it to you.
That's right. You have made a program like you just watched possible with your dollars of support in the past. Now we want to hear from you to pay it forward and make sure that we can continue producing these kinds of wonderful programs. Bill, thank you. Andrew, thank you. And thank you as well for your support here of Iowa PBS.